Hi, Destiny Kids. Let's look over what it means to be a Destiny Kid. Destiny Kids, we are kids of value. We have a hope for the future. We are people of influence. We are children of destiny. Absolutely true. All of you are the Destiny Kids, and this applies to all of you. And for the next little while, we are going to be going on a treasure hunt. The treasure hunt for the greatest treasure ever of all time. Which of course you know. You know what's going to be at the end of that, right? Of course, it's going to be God, but we're going to talk about how we find God. This is all about the search for God. And today, we are going to talk about how do we find God, searching through the relationships we have with people in our family. Finding God in your family. Well, let's find out. Last week, we started our journey and we were at the mountains of forgetfulness. Forgetting to look for God is one reason why people often don't find God. And we have our Bible child, and this week, Bible child is going to try to make it through the quicksand of unthankfulness, being unthankful, and how, like quicksand, you can sink further and further and further and struggle more and more. Family is not a concept that is unknown to us. God created family. Right from the beginning of the Bible, we find that God creates the first family. Actually creates the first family. He makes Adam, he makes Eve. They are joined together, they're a family, right? And Adam, Eve, walking with God, the three of them always at the beginning. After his days of creating the earth and the animals and all of those things in the universe, he made a family. So cool. When I think of that, God actually physically made a family. That's pretty neat. Now, if I were to ask you, what is a family? You might say something that sounds like this. A family is my mom and my dad and myself. Or a family is my mom and my dad and my brothers and sisters. Or my family is my grandparents, my aunts and uncles, my mom, my dad, my brothers, sisters, and our pets. Or, family really has a beautiful meaning all through the Bible. Here's one example of a super cool family. Before King David became King David, he was known just as, David. David had a friend, Jonathan. And it says in the Bible that Jonathan was like a brother. And that is a very rare and special honor, being chosen into a family instead of being born into a family. And you know what? I'll be honest with you. Not all families are great. I hope you come from a fantastic, loving family. But not all families are. And sometimes you need the family that is not your family by blood, because your family that you have by blood is not fantastic. And I hope that never happens to you. But I want you to know that God's plan is for you to have a loving family. And He will provide a loving family for you. So this is God's idea of a loving father in a family. In Deuteronomy, I'm going to read this to you, Deuteronomy 1:31, He says, "There you saw how the Lord your God carried you as a father carries his son, all the way you went until you reached this place." So God's idea of a loving father is someone who carries you when you are unhappy and struggling. Here's how God sees a mother. This is from the book of Isaiah 66, verse 13. "As the mother comforts her child, so I will comfort you, and you will be comforted over Jerusalem." Now, in both of those scriptures, God is saying, I am like a good father. I am like a good mother. I will carry you. I will comfort you. And that's so great. That's how God intends families to be. This is a slightly unpopular verse with children, but it really does matter in a family. This is Hebrews 12:7. "Endure hardship as discipline. God is treating you as His children. For what children are not disciplined by their father?" So in a good, healthy, loving family, a parent disciplines their children. Now, there's so many opinions on what that word means, but discipline comes from the word disciple, which means to guide and teach. So we're talking about a good parent will correct you when you are wrong. And you might not like it. Who likes to be corrected when they're wrong? I don't know a lot of people who really love to be corrected. But it is part of a godly family. And there are so many scriptures about listening to your parents, obeying your parents, because that's right and good and it makes God happy. All right, we've been talking about finding God in the relationships of our family. So we're going to do some cookie decorating.
Excuse me?
Just a second. And we are going to decorate these cookies like the faces of the people in our families. So we'll see how good we are at cookie decorating. This should be very exciting. There, I'm done my cookie. I'll show it here.
That's Leilani.
That's Leilani. That's right. That's my daughter, Leilani. She has her hair black right now, and she only has hair on one side of... Oh, my head's gone. She only has hair on one side of her head, so I only had to put hair on one side of my cookie.
I'm going to make more than one.
Can I show the camera the one you did?
Oh, yeah, it's me.
Okay. I'm going to just hold it on so it doesn't fall. There, Electa made herself with all her multicolored hair.
Wait, Electa!
Maybe I should take this home for Leilani and say, look, it's you as a cookie.
Yeah, and then every time you miss her, you're going to bake her and eat her.
That looks like face stubble.
Dad. I guessed it before you said it.
Oh, did you?
It's my dad.
Show it up. You did a really good job making the beard stubble.
But that's because
Look at that.
Okay.
That's Isaiah's dad.
Okay, you know what? I'm just going to mix it with a bunch of...
Drop it.
This is who I just did his colors. It is Quaylen. That's my dog's name.
Oh,
I didn't realize I did the eyes. Yours is hair.
Wow.
German short hair point.
This is my sister Alanda in cookie form. Because she has like green and yellow and who knows what color's hair right now.
She likes to dye her hair.
She does.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is a really fun thing you can do. Get a cookie, get some icing, see if you can make the members of your family in cookie format.
Mom, every time I miss you, I'm going to bake you and eat you.
Look at Mom.
Declan, I was going to say I'm really glad that you did the dog because for some people, the only family member who lives with them is their pet, right? They live all alone except for they have a pet, and that is their close family. So it's really cool that you did your dog so that you can see, a family can be...
I think that's all you can really see on
He's
the
my
dog.
favorite in the family.
All right. Sometimes the member of your family could be like your pet, like our dog, Phelan. Sometimes it's a person that you live with and you've always lived with, like, your mother or your daughter, like Mom did her daughter. And sometimes family can be people that come into your life a little bit later, like my sister-in-law, Corey Sue, who became my sister 20 years ago, but she hasn't been my sister my whole life. Once upon a time, because all good stories start with once upon a time, there were two brothers, two princes. One was destined to rule the throne, the other was not. But as they grew, they were both marvelous warriors, but one was far greater than the other. Unfortunately, that was not the son that was destined to rule. His name was Kashyapa, and Kashyapa thought, I am a great warrior. I should rule this land, not my brother. So Kashyapa decided to take the throne from his brother. He conquered his brother, and his brother's armies fled the land. But the new king didn't feel safe. He felt like someday his brother would return. So he decided to build a great city fortress. Luckily for him, there just so happened to be a huge rock right in the middle of the jungle where he could station his troops and they could look out into the jungle and see the invading army. And King Kashyapa decided that was where he would build his city fortress. So he filled his city with beautiful paintings on the walls, beautiful women in his palace, beautiful fountains and gardens. But he didn't neglect the protection of his fortress. Oh, no. The only way to get into the king's city was to go between the feet of a massive stone lion. And the monstrous lion loomed over the doorway, looking at all who dared to enter the king's city. This is the story of Sigiriya in Sri Lanka. There's Sri Lanka right there. So just a couple hundred years after the death of Jesus, some monks decided to build this monastery on top of the rocky mountain. The rocky outcropping is what they call it. On top of the rocky outcropping. And eventually they left, so they started this city. 800 years later, so about 1,000 years after the death of Christ, the king decides that he's going to use the beginnings of this city to build himself this massive fortress. And he lives there he only reigned for about 20 years. About 200 years ago, there's a man who's trying to get through the jungle on his horse. And he's chopping down trees and vines as he goes. And just imagine, he chops down this few vines and he looks, and all of a sudden in front of him is a staircase. So there is our lost and then found city of Sigiriya in Sri Lanka. How to deal with conflict in your family. Now, I'm sure you guys never fight with your brothers and sisters, right? Never. And you never argue with your parents, right? That's what I thought. But other people do. And in the Bible in Matthew, it says to leave your gift in front of the altar. So when you come to church to offer something to God, if you remember that you and your brother or you and your sister, that there is an argument happening, God says it's really important to first go and reconcile to them. Then come and offer your gift. So it is so important to God that even though he knows we are going to fight and argue, it's so important to God that we talk to each other and reconcile. We make up. We try harder the next time, right? Very important to God in a family. It's easy to say, go and make up. Everything will be fine. Have you ever had a sibling take something that's yours and break it because they're angry? And you can say to them, hey, that's not yours. You have broken my toy. I am so upset with you. And they say, I don't care. Well, what do? The Bible gives us guidelines what to do in a situation like that. He says, if your brother or sister sins, go and point it out. Hey, what you did was wrong. You've hurt me. You've hurt my feelings. You've broken my stuff. This is not an okay way to treat me. He says, if they listen to you, you have won them over. So often we just walk away and we're so mad and we stew in it and we just can't get over it, right? But God says, don't do that. Go and talk to them, because I'll tell you, maybe not when someone takes your toy and breaks it, but a lot of the times we hurt people without meaning to do it. Where we're careless, we're forgetful, we don't notice. So sometimes just going to someone and saying, hey, I didn't think that was funny. You hurt my feelings, is a huge thing. I know it doesn't always solve it, but that's the first step. Try to talk to them first. But if they will not listen, then take one or two sisters along, or brothers, or, when you get older, there might be friends, right? You say, look, what you're doing is harmful and hurtful. And they say, I don't care what you have to say. So you say, look, Joe and Janet here, they also feel like what you're doing is hurtful. But you don't start there. You always start one-on-one. Then if you need help, you get help. If that doesn't work, then you start to go higher to a parent, or if you're in a work situation, to a boss. If you're in a church, then you might go to the elders of the church, and it builds if it has to. It is okay to escalate if you have to, but you always want to start from a position of, hey, I'm coming to you one-on-one, and I want to resolve this situation with you. Now you're like, well, okay, so I go to my sibling, and they say, oh, I'm really sorry. I'm sorry that I said that. I didn't realize it would hurt your feelings. I was just joking. I'll try not to do it again. And then the next day they do it again. Well, what do you do, right? Oh, the Bible has guidelines for that. What does the Bible say? It says in, again, Matthew 18:21, Peter, the rock Peter comes and he says to Jesus, he says, Lord, how many times shall I forgive my brother or sister who sins against me? And he picks a number. He says, so give me a number here, God. Quantify this for me. Do I have to forgive my sibling like 7 times? Which is huge. And Jesus says, no, not 7 times. Nope. But 77 times. And Jesus isn't saying 77 is the number. Once they get to that 78th time, they're done. No. What he's saying is, you're not going to keep track of 77 times. You just have to say, my forgiveness is not limited to a number. Here's another way that you can make a fun family that you can play with. We already did the cookies, but now you can also make them using popsicle sticks. So this is what you're going to need. I'll let you know ahead of time. You're going to need some popsicle sticks. You're going to need markers. And if you want to go a little bigger, you could get a hot glue gun or white glue, some yarn, which is what I'm going to be using, right there so you can see it a bit, and some Google eyes and a pair of scissors. All right, so you need popsicle sticks and markers, but you could have popsicle sticks, markers, hot glue gun, yarn, scissors, googly eyes. So pause the video if you need to run and get those things, then press play when you get back. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to just make a family. So each one of these popsicle sticks, they are members of my family. And when you are done, you can even put on a little play. So here's a popsicle stick. So let's say I'm going to draw a person. Let's see if my orange works. If you want to, you could even draw clothes on. There. If you have a marker and a popsicle stick, you can do a person like that. Now I will grab my hot glue gun. So you're going to cut the yarn, depending on how long you want the person's hair to be. And then put a little glue on. Give them a couple of eyes with my Google eyes here. That's not where we keep our eyes. There we go. Hello. My poor person's sleepy. She's got bags under her eyes where the glue glopped. Poor person. That's okay. Get some sleep tonight. You'll be better in the morning. So there you go. A popsicle stick family. And then you could tell a story. Your family could go on an adventure. You can do whatever you want with your popsicle. Oh, the mustached man is always facing the wrong way. There we go. Remember, treasure is not always gold and silver. People can be treasures, and they can, and usually are at some point, lost to us. The non-golden treasure that I want to talk to you about this week is a man named Dietrich Bonhoeffer. This man lived in Germany, and he lived in Germany when Germany was going through some really hard times. And you might have never heard of the world wars before, but in our history, there are 2 times when so many nations joined together to fight that it was called a world war. It doesn't actually mean the war was all over the world. It doesn't actually mean that every country in the world was involved, but there were so many involved in this battle that it became known as a world war. Now, Dietrich Bonhoeffer was a German professor and pastor. And he had some very strong beliefs about something called ecumenism. Now, big word, what does it mean? He believed that all the people in the church family should work together. And Dietrich Bonhoeffer spoke out very publicly against a man called Adolf Hitler, who was and is known nowadays as one of the greatest war criminals of all time. And he knew that he was in danger in Germany. People who spoke out against Hitler were definitely targeted. And people encouraged him to flee to another country and to seek safety. And he said this, which I thought was very brave. I have no right to participate in the reconstruction of Christian life in Germany after the war if I do not share the trials of this time with my people. So he said, if I run away and be safe and I leave other people to do all the fighting and the standing up for what's right, how do I have any right to come back when it's all over and say, hey, I'm here to set things straight now? No, he wasn't willing to do that. And because he wasn't willing to do that, he was caught and thrown into prison. From prison, he wrote letters and letters and letters. Letters that encouraged Christians, letters that challenged Christians. And he wrote a book in prison. He spoke out a lot about things that weren't right. We're not to simply bandage the wounds of victims beneath the wheels of injustice. We are to drive a spoke into the wheel itself. So he says it's not good enough to come along after and say, oh, here, let me help you. What we need to do is stand up and say, this can't happen anymore. This is not right, and I won't let this happen anymore, and I will actively try to stop it. While Bonhoeffer was in prison, he didn't keep quiet. He wrote letters. He wrote a book that was published after his death. He preached sermons to the soldiers in charge of the camp, as well as the other inmates of the camp, the other prisoners. And they have an account of the last few moments of his life. He actually preached a sermon, finished his sermon, and then they said, all right, time to be executed. And he says, this is the end. For me, it's the beginning of life. Because to him, now he was going to go to be with the Lord. The doctor says this, in almost 50 years that I worked as a doctor, I have hardly ever seen a man die so entirely submissive to the will of God. The moment, the moment of his death, he was so at peace with his God that it affected the lives of the soldiers watching. That's an awesome man of God. And that is a treasure to this earth that is lost. Welcome to our scripture wall, right here under our map. Every week, I'm going to put a new scripture for us to learn. So last week, we had the super cool verse that said, if you seek me, you will find me when you seek me with all your heart. All your heart. And that was Jeremiah 29:13. Right there. Now, this week, we have another super cool verse. I love this one. There is a word in here that some of you might not know, and some of you will know from the other times that we've talked about it. Well, the times that I've talked to you about it. The word is Gentile. A Gentile is anybody who's not a Jew. So here's our memory verse. So now, you Gentiles, that's me, probably you. You Gentiles are no longer strangers and foreigners. You are citizens, along with all of God's holy people. You are members of God's family. That's Ephesians 2:19. Do you know what it means to be a citizen? Some of you might not know. You might not even realize that you are a citizen of somewhere right now. Most nations around the world allow you to be a citizen if you're born in that country. I was born in Canada. I'm a Canadian citizen. Another way to become a citizen is to move to the country and ask that government, usually through a lot of paperwork, if you can become a citizen. And then it's like they kind of take you under their protection and you become a citizen of Canada. So that's the other way to become a Canadian citizen. A citizen of most countries, actually. So here it says that we are citizens of God's kingdom. And because of Jesus, we are citizens of the kingdom of God. I think to be a citizen of the kingdom of heaven is a very special title. So I'm going to read this again. Super cool verse number 2. So now you Gentiles are no longer strangers and foreigners. You are citizens along with all of God's holy people. You are members of God's family. Ephesians 2:19. So I will say to you, hello, brother. Hello, sister in Christ. I'm really happy to be part of your family and happy to be part of the family of God. Here's another treasure that is not made of gold or silver. It's another animal. Last week we looked at the platypus from Australia. And this week we're going to look at an animal that you probably know. I'll give you a hint. It's big. I am over 1.7 meters tall. So this is how tall I am. I'll come where you can see me. I'm not a short person. I'm not huge. I'm not short. I am over 1.7 meters tall. The animal that we're going to talk about, this animal is just a little shorter than I am. All right? This animal is 1.5, so you're talking 20 centimeters shorter than myself. Probably brings it to about here if it were to stand on its hind legs. So it's got 4 legs. I just gave you a clue there. 4 legs. It would stand this tall. And it's big. It's big. It's round. It's fuzzy. It's an animal you've probably seen. Whatever country you're from, you've probably seen or heard of this animal. It has only 2 colors. Here's another hint. This will probably give it away. This animal is native to the country of China. There's China. Anybody know what it is? We are going to learn about the panda bear. The panda bear? Yes, there it is. This animal is an endangered species. It means that there aren't very many of them left in the world. People keep cutting down the forests where the panda bears live. So then there isn't enough places for them to feel comfortable and safe, and they're not reproducing. They live in bamboo forests and they eat mostly bamboo. But panda bears have also been known to eat fruit. They've actually even been known to eat meat. But here's the thing about a panda bear. The panda bear is said to be a super duper lazy animal. Here's a super cool thing about the panda bear that makes it different from other animals. It has six digits on its front paws. 6, right there. 6 of them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Helps them to grab the bamboo and eat it. All right, here's a fun fact that you guys will probably think is super interesting. Doesn't thrill me so much, but I'm a boring old grown-up. So when they are trying to find panda bears in the wild to check on them and make sure they're okay, they follow the scat, the poo. The poo of the panda bear will lead you to its home because they just poo in the direction in which they are traveling. They are not sneaky or clever. They don't dig a hole. They do not bury their poo. They do not hide it. They do not redirect any animals or predators away from them. They just poo in the direction they're going. Yes, I thought you'd find that interesting. Here's another interesting fact. If you own a dog, you may have seen your dog mark its territory, which means they pee on something. Yes, they do. They pee on something and they say, this is now mine. It smells like me. This smells the way I want it to smell, and I'm so happy. Because dogs are like that. Well, panda bears are like that too. If a panda bear wants to mark its territory, it pees on it, but not like a dog. Oh, no, because a panda bear is not a dog. A panda bear will crawl backwards up the tree with its back legs so it can pee super high. Now remember how big a panda bear is. It can pee higher on the tree so it can let lots of people know, hey, this is now my area. I have marked it with my scent. It is mine. Yes, I knew you'd find that interesting. Now I must tell you something that might make you super sad. Have any of you seen the movie Kung Fu Panda? If you have, It is now I feel my duty to tell you that although panda bears are super cute, just like the panda bear in Kung Fu Panda, that panda bears do not practice their Kung Fu on each other. They're too lazy for Kung Fu. That panda bear in the Kung Fu Panda movies, he was a special panda bear. Maybe because he was raised by a bird. But real panda bears, sorry to disappoint you, they do not practice Kung Fu on each other. Today, our extinct animal is the Haast eagle. Now, the Haast eagle was around, it hasn't even been extinct for 500 years, actually. And once again, it was an island bird. Not all of our extinct animals are going to be birds, but I thought this one was super cool as well. The Haast eagle was found on an island off the coast of New Zealand. There's New Zealand. Now, what made it so special? First of all, it was huge. It was a huge bird. And this was its wingspan, okay? 2 to 3 meters. When it opened its wings, see that there? That was the wingspan of the Haast eagle. So there were a group of people called the Maori, and they rowed over to this island in their boats, and they found this huge creature called the Mau. Now, they thought, oh, this huge creature looks like it's going to make some good eating. So, of course, they hunted it, and they ate it. And then they came back, and they hunted it, and they ate it. And they hunted it, and they ate it. You see where I'm going here? They hunted, and they ate this creature to extinction. Or close to extinction, well, to extinction. This animal no longer exists. And unfortunately, not only did they make that creature extinct, but it was also the Haast eagle, because the Mau was one of the primary food sources for the Haast eagle. So here's some super interesting facts. First of all, the wingspan, 2 to 3 meters. Okay, I'm going to show you the wingspan of the Haast eagle. So, here we go. That's how big those wings would have been, swooping down from the sky. Second of all, its claws were 9 centimeters. That's about this. 9 centimeters. Could you imagine? 9 centimeters of claw. That's what it was. The Haast eagle was a huge eagle. Hunting is a huge source of extinction. Overhunting, I should say, because there is a reasonable amount of hunting, especially if you're hungry. So the Haast eagle had greenish yellow wingtips. So at the very ends, here and here, they would have been like greenish yellow. But look how big this bird would have been. Huge bird. That had the claws that were 9 centimeters long. And with it, it could grab its prey and lift it off the ground. So, I thought you guys might enjoy making some claws. If you already know how to do it.
I gave her the idea.
If you know how to do it, awesome. It's my eagle thumbs up. Eagle thumbs up. If you don't know how to do it, we have 2 expert claws. And once you have your claws done, you could actually learn to fix your hair using claws. Wait, oh, you want it back. Okay, ready? Here we go.
I just did that so amazing.
Okay. Teach us how to make the claws. All right, I'm going to have to take off my claws because as awesome as they are for fixing hair, they're no good for picking up paper. All right, so
You want to make sure here you grab and you want to fold it down, but make sure the fold goes to the edge. Now what I like to do is I want to fold it carefully at the edge, so specifically a spike, see?
Oh.
And make sure it's lining up against paper like this. Wait. There you go, see?
Like this?
So then you put it down flat on the ground. Push it. Oh, but make sure here, you don't actually have to slam on it, but anyway.
You want me to slide my finger along the crease?
Yep. you want to slide it along, or at least something. I like to have it perfectly lined up with the paper, and the end still a spike.
Can I just say, that's cool. It's great.
You grab here, and you fold it all the way down. And then you just do that and this.
Okay.
Now, as you can see, I did an extra step. But why did I do an extra step? Well, that's because you do this twice. Now, it's nice and simple and easy. You probably already know, but just in case, I'm going to show you. You grab it and fold it up. Make sure there's a little space between here. You can, but it's just going to be a tiny bit harder if you do it wrong. Good job, Mom.
Thank you.
All right, so then you fold it up. You could do it right side up also. All right, now you want, after you fold it up, make sure both sides are spiked. And also it should look like a triangle when you fold it up, like this. You grab the spiked part,
Like a
bring
corner?
it
Is that what you mean
down.
when you say a spiked part? A corner?
Yep,
Okay.
a corner. And you bring it down. Now make sure it's like about halfway
So it,
in the top. You want to grab the part that you didn't fold. This. And you want to wrap it around. Sometimes it'll just end up like this. Now that is okay. Now the part that you folded, once it's like this, you want to fold it up and down until it goes in here. Then you fold this,
how'd I do?
put it in. Yep, good job, Mom. And
Wait. Good job.
and now it is done.
It's done?
Now wait. Here you want to open up. There should be a little crack.
Oh.
Right? See that? And you stick your finger in.
Excuse me. Did I do it right? Excuse me.
Yep, now sometimes. And then after you use it after a while, it'll look like this.
So here we are at our treasure map on our search for the greatest treasure. And I said that we were going to try to get Bible Child through the quicksand of unthankfulness. And then I talked a lot about family. What does family have to do with the quicksand of forgetfulness? Have you ever heard, there's an expression, it's called familiarity breeds contempt. And what that means is when we are familiar with something, we don't always remember to value and treasure it. Just like very wealthy kings forget to value and treasure their subjects. And just like we, who are blessed with a very loving family, can sometimes forget to value and treasure our family. If you have a sibling who helps you with your homework, don't just be like, hey, I got to do my homework. Where are you? Maybe be grateful that they take the time out of their lives to help you. And don't take it for granted. Be thankful. Be thankful for the good things you have in this life and the good things that come through your family. Because there are a lot of people out there who are not part of a loving family, who don't know their families, and people who don't have a church family. So don't get sucked down into the quicksand of unthankfulness. Remember to be grateful for your family. So I've been holding our treasure box. Let's see what we have today to help our Bible child to get through the quicksand of unthankfulness. Oh, look at that. Here, I'll bring it closer. There you go. We find God through the people in our family. Today, if you go to the link below the video, you will find this disc that you can print out. It says, we find God through the people in our family. So you're going to do this. Cut it out. And then you can paint it, or you can put sand on it, because we are talking about the quicksand of unthankfulness. So I didn't have any sand, so I'm going to use glitter and white glue. Now that does mean it'll take a while to dry, but that's okay. If you don't have glitter and you don't have sand, then what you can do is take a marker and just go dab, 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 all over so that it looks like sand. Lots of ways that you can do it. Now I've got lots of different colors. You know what? Nice to put something under if you are using sand or glitter, because as anyone who's ever had to clean it up could tell you, it's a lot of work. Purple glitter. Woo! Hello, purple glitter. But there you are. See that? Put some sand on it. And I say, okay, well, to each their own. I say, spread a little sparkle in this world. Everywhere you go. Come on. There we go. So now we've made it through the mountains of forgetfulness and the quicksand of unthankfulness. Our lost treasures found. We are going to talk about the Padmanabhaswamy temple, which is in India. There's India. This temple, the temple wasn't lost. So let me just clarify, the temple wasn't lost. The treasure wasn't lost. This temple has 6 vaults. And they're called vaults A, B, C, D, E, and F. So vault A is supposed to have like all the exotic treasures, like the golden thrones and the jewel-encrusted idols and things like that. And vault C and D have your regular gold, silver, precious stones, jewelry. Vaults E and F contain utensils and tools for rituals. I said vault A, I said vault C, D, E, F. Which letter's missing? A, C, D, E, F. Vault B. Vault B had been sealed shut for 130 years. And it was guarded by this door. These cobras sort of entwined around the doorway, and people were not allowed to get in. And finally, not too long ago, they opened Vault B, and they found $1 trillion worth of treasure in Vault B. When they opened this, unfortunately, some of the treasure started to go missing, some of the gold and silver. And so they had to find a way to keep the treasure safe. So now, today, the temple is protected by metal detectors, security cameras, and over 200 guards, some of them who are armed with machine guns. They walk around with machine guns. So yeah, the temple treasure doesn't go missing now. Now you might think to yourself, that's crazy. Why should there be so much gold and silver in this Hindu temple? What is the point of all that? Well, in the Bible, it talks about another temple. It was called the Temple of Solomon. It was very similar. They used gold and silver and jewels to show their love of God. It's the same thing in the Hindu temple that we're talking about. It was actually a very common practice. A lot of temples, when invading armies would come, one of the first places they would go is to a temple, because that's where all the gold and silver was, right? And unfortunately, that's what happened to King Solomon's temple. The invading army came in, and they pulled all the gold and silver off of the walls and the ornaments, and they took the treasures of the temple and they destroyed the temple. But this temple is a beautiful example of how people used to pour the wealth into the church. To give to God, I mean, you can't just throw your money in the air, right? If you want to give to God. If you throw your money in the air, what's going to happen? It's probably going to fall down and hit you in the face. So how do we give up those tangible, touchable things like our money? So you give it to the church. And the church, so some churches like this temple here, a lot of that money is kept in a vault where they lock it away and they say, this is God's treasure. And other churches, you pour the wealth into the church and the church pours the wealth out to the people. So they say, look, we have all this money, and sure, we could use it to line the walls of our church with gold. Or we could use it to feed the hungry. Or we could use all this money to help a missionary across the ocean who is far, far away from home in a dangerous land, teaching people about God. So that is our hidden, it's not a lost treasure, it's a hidden treasure. Isaiah's going to show it to us again.
So if you didn't 100% understand that, so what you do, you get the piece of paper, you take one corner, you fold it so that it's perfectly, or as close as you can get it, in line with the other side, like that. And then you'll fold it to the one corner to the other corner so that it kind of looks like a house, like that. So you like fold it like that.
I'm showing everybody the back side.
Okay, and then you take the two bottom corners and get them close, but not too close, because you still want a little bit of space so that it doesn't crinkle up there. And then make the creases so that it's kind of like, I don't even know, like, if you turn it like that, it'll be a diamond, I guess. Then if you flip this part up, it's like a hat. So you take this corner, and then you go like, or the other side, whichever one you choose. So you go and you fold it down the middle, like that. So you go like that so that it goes like straight down. Then you will wrap it around like that so that there's a bit of space. See how there's like a big side here that is the bigger side, and there's a little flap right here. You want to fold this again till it's right beside the flap. Open up the flap a bit and push that piece down. Then there will be this hole right here. That's not the one that you stick your finger into. See this piece? There's two holes in there. Stick your finger into the furthest one away from this. Like this.
That's great. Now, also in our treasure box, we are keeping the things that will remind us of every week. So last week, we had a treasure map that reminds us to look for God. You got to look at the treasure map. If you're going to find the treasure, you have to look for God if you're going to find him. This week, we've talked a lot about family and being thankful for family. This is what I have in the treasure box this week. This is a picture from my wedding. And the little one, the little girl there dancing, is my flower girl. She's a sweetie. And the lady is my step-grandma. So when I was a little girl, both of my grandmothers died. I never met my grandfather and my grandmother on my mom's side because they lived in a different country. And so for years, all I had was one grandfather, and I loved my grandpa very much. And one day he met a woman, and she made him feel very happy, and he married her. And that made her my grandma. It technically, legally made her my step-grandma, but I never called her that. She was a really fun lady. She was very feisty, and she danced, and she made friends, and she was such a fun woman. I really liked her. So that's my Grandma Marjorie, and I'm putting her in my treasure box, and she will always be in my heart. So I put her in my treasure box to remind me to be thankful for the family that God has given me, and to remember that I can see God through my family members and the things that we do for each other and the love that we have for each other.